What's popping? What's popping? What's popping? Welcome to No Blankets Podcast, where we engage in raw, unfiltered discussions that leave no topic covered up. We rock in season 1, episode 6, entitled Leadership Accountability: The Effects of Social Media's Imagery on Young Women. And yes, it's your girl and your host, C. West. Do your girl a favor and please migrate over to YouTube and hit that subscribe notification bell to get that alert when we go live at No Blankets Podcast. Shout out to my sponsors, my girl, my little sis, T Money of T Money Beats. She's the Wonder Woman on those ones and twos, always in the lab, cooking up the dope beats and sack. Shout out to the beautiful Miss Ely Chandler of Chandler and Company. They call her the hat lady, y'all. She keeps our head game fly with those fedora hats for men and for women. Shout out to my undercover brother, Lance the PI, the retired police officer. He's a process server. So if you need those papers served or Mr. 007 to catch your partner on a late night dipping out the telly, he's that guy. Shout out to the hardest working man in the Sacramento community, the Mr. Ronnie Cobb. He's the host of Cut to the Chase and Cut to the Chase, the Crown Edition. Shout out to the barbershops and salons that are carrying the mantle. Shout out to my man, 100 Grand, the doctor, the Bishop, Kenneth L. Davis, and his lovely wife, my cousin, my sis, Rhonda Davis. Dr. Davis is responsible for my podcast design, y'all. The commercial intros and dope social media flyers. So if you're interested and you're in need of that crispy look to take your podcast image to the next level, Dr. Davis and all of our other sponsors info will be included in the comments below. Also, and finally, shout out to the late but never forgotten, the Bishop Sherwood Carthen, who said, and I quote, "Don't ever stop following a true legend, but make sure you identify what one is." Man, that's a nugget. Just go ahead and write it down. Just somewhere on your journals, just go ahead and write it down. From gospel music to blues, jazz, country, R&B, hip-hop, gangster rap, and trap, we can agree that music is loved by people no matter the age, gender, or race, and it connects us to past memories or present experiences. We can also agree, y'all, that our taste in music changes with every generation. However, it's not just music that sets the melodic trends for culture, but social media platforms like TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. They are now setting the bar on how our young people engage socially and with their peers. We are living in an age where entertainment is a form of indoctrination and environment is a breeding ground that influences identity. According to the Gallup survey, 51% of teens ages 13 to 19 engage on online social media sites for at least 5 hours daily. And that percentage, especially for young women around the ages of 17 to 19, is over 62%. Yeah, you heard it, 62%. So you have to ask yourselves, as parents and as guardians, have we let social media raise our children? Are teenagers' identities developed and molded by social culture trends like language, morality, ethics, clothing, music, and religion, by what I'll coin the phrase as social media gods? Who should we hold accountable? And are our parents in a war against the AI culture? And if so, what are some of their defenses and methods that they are using to protect their children? Tonight, my guest is going to talk about a program that does just that, protects our children. She was crowned Miss Black Sacramento 1974 and Miss Grand Talent for her interpretation of the Paul Laurence Dunbar poem, In the Morning. She is a trained pastry chef and operated her small business called sweet, sticky things. For decades, she has been the MC for the Miss Black Sacramento Scholarship Pageant, numerous fashion shows, and award ceremonies, including sharing MC duties with Shamar Moore at the Miss Black World Pageant in Washington, D.C. She's also the voice of God at the Sacramento Observer newspaper 60th anniversary gala. Her greatest joy are her beautiful three children. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to share this space with the beautiful Miss Gina Clater. Welcome, sis.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled that you invited me to be on the program and talk about this very interesting topic.
Gina, I saw the opportunity to highlight a program that I feel creates self value and confidence in our young Black women. And just looking at the tenure that you've had in the pageant is just phenomenal. So tonight, as we are dealing with leadership accountability, I want to congratulate you, sister, on the role that you have played over the years in so many of our young people's lives. And that's just amazing. So kudos to that. I wish I had a thing that it could the applause. But
Thanks.
you had an amazing run, 50 years, and you look
Well,
good.
yeah,
I
thank
say to
you.
my I say to my cousin, you almost as fine as me. Just one more gene. One more gene. You've been as fine as me, girl. But you had an amazing run, 50 years, Gina.
Yeah,
Congratulations
thank you.
on your
Thank you.
successful
Yeah.
tenure. Tell us about the history of the pageant and how you started.
Okay, like you said, I was Miss Black Sacramento 50 years ago, and I also won the Miss Grand Talent. The pageant actually is just celebrated its 53rd year. I was the third queen. So Velma Stokely and Jimmy Royster, and anybody that's been in Sacramento for any length of time knows those two names. They got together back in the day and formed the Miss Black Sacramento beauty pageant. Back in the day, it was a beauty pageant. We had a swimsuit competition, and not so much emphasis was placed on your intellectual capabilities. But they were looking for somebody. We weren't as woke back then as
Okay,
we
good
are now,
word.
years ago. So back then we competed in swimsuit, evening gown, and talent. And then everybody's scores were wiped clean, and the top five were asked a question live on stage. And the winner of that segment was crowned Miss Black Sacramento. Um, the pageant was formed specifically to be a platform for African American women to compete in beauty pageants. In the past, we were not allowed to be up there with the other people,
Speak on
uh,
it.
with the white people. And
Speak
if
on
it
it.
did let us in, we were not necessarily celebrated for our differences. So black people have different hair, their bodies are shaped different, their culture is different, their engagement in the arts is different. So this pageant, Mrs. Stokely and Mr. Royster's pageant, gave our young women in the community a chance to celebrate the wonderful things black about being black.
Mm, mm. That's interesting to talk about the way that we evolved, and that's one of the things that I like what you mentioned. You said that there was a time where we weren't invited to that table.
Hmm.
So you were a part of a system that created their own table. This is
Exactly.
my whole this is what I fight for.
Yeah.
Creating
Exactly.
spaces
Yeah.
for us to speak to our needs,
Uh-huh.
to address the things that um, are not addressed in those spaces. I
Right.
appreciate that. I really
Hmm.
do.
Thank you.
What impact and role did you play in creating personal value in those young ladies' lives?
Fortunately, I was raised by Reg and Connie Clater, and they held all six of their kids to very high standards. you were to be your best self when you went out in public. You didn't go out unkempt. You were always dressed appropriately for wherever you were going, be it church, be it school. And again, back in the day, it was when I started high school, we couldn't wear pants.
Wow.
So society really had a chokehold on everybody, how they were able to present themselves authentically. So it came kind of easy to me personally, that I knew once I got the title that I was expected to show up, on time, looking a certain way. It didn't matter that I didn't feel good or I didn't want to be there. That didn't matter. I had a crown and a sash, and I was expected to represent every single time I stepped out as Miss Black Sacramento. And 50 years later, people still remember me as Miss Black Sacramento. My talent was kind of funny, and people would come up to me years later and still quote one or two of the lines, the funny lines from my talent. So we, again, every young lady that we embrace into our pageant system doesn't have that background, was not raised in a two family middle class household, but we still instruct them on how to present their best self. We work with them extensively during our 6 or 8 weeks of rehearsal to make sure that they know how to answer impromptu questions, the appropriate attire to wear, um, the importance of being on time, and being true to yourself.
Give us one of the questions that you might have asked one of the contestants.
Sure, we have a whole list and we rehearse with them, and then we give the judges the same list of questions. So, one question, for example, could be, um, being Miss Black Sacramento or Miss Black Teen Sacramento, you will be an ambassador. How would you best represent yourself? Or um, how do you push back against peers that are pressuring you? And this is very important to these young women that are pressuring you to do something that goes against your beliefs. So
That's
we give
powerful.
them, yeah, So we try and address a lot of issues that they face. The questions that I may have received may not have touched on the things that they're facing in this day and age. So we do try and touch on all of those. And in addition to giving them talking points, we also want to engage their mind. I want you to think about that answer. Maybe you've not, as we start with the teen girls at age 13. Maybe you've not ever thought about that.
Right.
But I want you to think about it at this point. You may get asked that question at a press interview or at a TV interview or at a luncheon or a dinner where you're there as you with your crown and your sash. And I want you to think of an answer for that.
Just be ready. Just be
Be
ready.
ready.
Well,
Be ready.
I want to speak on from my own personal experience of the Claters. You already know where I'm going, right? You already know. So I was invited uh, by her sister for Thanksgiving. This was my first Thanksgiving at the Clater home during the holidays. So the holidays, now again, this is my perception. The holidays, they lived on the other side of the track. They were the 43rd Avenue, a cable line Americans. Okay. And so going over there during the holidays was grand for someone who had a wonderful life, had a wonderful child up, up, God, God, hello,
Upbringing.
somebody, get out of my mouth. Upbringing. I had a brain fart. It was great, but when I went to the Clater home, it was phenomenal. It was like stepping into magic, right? Like Mr. Clater had this tree that looked like it came from Macy's, and the smell was the aroma of he had this sandwich, this long sandwich with spices and olive oil and garlic, and it was just amazing. But then my whole world was rocked at the dinner table. 17 pieces of silverware. I mean, 8 glasses. And Janine was in there, making salad crepes and lemon pea shavings and the apple apple dressing. And I was like, where's the macaroni and cheese? You know what I'm saying? Where's the mac and cheese? Mac and cheese at night. Where the greens at? But it was a great experience, Gina, of another level of culture. Um, I'm sure you have several testimonies on how the pageant affects their self-esteem. Is there one story or memory that sticks out to you?
Well, let me go back to your experience dining with us. That is how we were raised. We sat down to dinner, every night. And because of that, I'm able to teach dining etiquette to our contestants. And
Mm.
and I always preface the instruction with, at this day and age, everybody's on the move, everybody's doing their own thing. We eat in the car, we eat in front of the TV. So it's not a bad thing that you don't know what to do with 17 forks.
Or
So
even where to start.
right. Here's a trick: you always start from the outside in. Okay.
See, there goes a lesson, y'all. There, she just dropped some game, just in case you out. Please, oh, and this is another one I learned. Learn how to eat with your left hand, just in case you're on a prestigious business meeting. And say it again, Gina.
You eat from your silverware. Your service goes from the outside in, so you would use the fork farthest away from the plate. Okay. Your bread plate is going to be on the left, dry on the left, and your water glasses and your beverage glasses, no matter how many you have, whether it's your water glass, your white wine, and your red wine, and then your aperitif, your cocktail after dinner, and your
Hold on
coffee.
1 second. Hold on. Wait, you're what? See,
Aperitif, your after dinner cocktail.
you better
So
talk, girl.
you may
Aperitif is
have
aperitif.
5 or 6 glasses, but your glasses will be on the right. And again, if your table is kind of scrunched up, if you're sitting at a round table, you may not know where everything goes, but your bread goes on the left, and your beverages are on your right.
That's amazing. I mean, that is really really amazing. How were they affected? Um, and again, we want you to share a story. Was there any time where one of those girls was affected by the experience, or
Yeah,
can you share with us
they
a
they tell me
testimony or a
all the time.
memory?
They tell me all the time. We have a lot of contestants that if they don't win the first time, they come back in another year. It might be the following year or the year after that. They kind of do a gap year and then come back. So they'll remember what they learned in the dining etiquette course, and they'll tell me that I had a scholarship dinner and I needed to know which fork and which knife to use. I also have them, before we get started with the training, go to the sideboard and choose the silverware they think they're going to need in order to set their place. And to me, it just tickles me. I remember one year I had a young lady that picked out 2 knives. I'm sorry, 2 knives. Why would you need one on the side of the plate and then one across the top of the plate? But
Right.
and I had another young lady that was putting silverware in her purse. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
so it's always just kind of amusing to me. And again, it's nobody's fault. It's because we eat on the run. Nobody sits down. Very rarely do we sit down now at the table. um yeah, but they do come back and tell me that I remembered that I was supposed to use this fork. This was my salad fork. I remembered that this was my dessert fork up here. So it is essential.
What's the age group of these women?
We do We do two pageants concurrently. So we have the teen girls that are 13 to 17, and then we have the Miss Contestants that are 18 to 26. And the rules are the same for both. Never married, never have born a child. They must have a performing talent, and they must get a sponsor. So
So
any,
do you, oh, look, can I ask you a tough question?
Mhm.
Do you think that those particular rules cancel out marginal young women? I hate to put you on the spot like that. And, we're not, this is a disclaimer. We are not talking about the Sacramento Black pageant and their policies and procedures. Just wanting to know because, again, the space that I'm trying to create with
Right.
No Blankets podcast
Hmm.
is to be able to share information and to network with
Right.
people that in my community that
Hmm.
probably wouldn't know about the
Hmm.
Sacramento Black
Right.
pageant, know about
I
your
understand.
history.
I understand. And certainly the answer to your question is yes. There have been a number of women in the past 50 years that came to us, say at an orientation or filled out an application, that had already started their families. And
Mm.
we call ourselves a scholarship pageant. Um, we give money to the schools. We kind of have to work around that because we've discovered that if the student is on financial aid and they get money from us, that reduces their financial aid amount.
Okay.
So we've got, but we're a scholarship pageant. We want them to go on to school to finish their education. And it's difficult to do if you've already started your family. So for right now, we are sticking with the rules that we've always had, that we don't want you to have started your family already.
Okay.
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 But unfortunately, we have lost some that would have been really outstanding contestants.
Is there a board? I'm sure that makes those decisions. Do
Uh-huh.
you have has that question ever come up
It
for you
has.
guys?
It has. It has. Almost every year, certainly every other year. Again, we'll meet a young lady. I'll hand her a flyer, or she'll come to an orientation. We're going to have an orientation coming up at the Sweet Potato Festival. And they'll say, "Oh, my cousin really wants to do this, but she's got two little ones." Yeah. And should they be crowned, we also think that it might be difficult to fulfill her obligations as Miss Black Sacramento.
What would the obligations be?
Oh, you're out. You're out in the community. You're in parades. You're at grand openings. You're at events, fashion shows, luncheons. You get invited to all sorts of things.
So you would have to stay ready. It's not you can't.
Yeah.
I have a babysitter.
Right.
Okay, I get that. I
Right.
really do. I really get that. I really get that. It. So let me just ask. Can I ask you another tough question?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, this wasn't on the questionnaire I sent,
That's
but
okay.
because we're engaging in conversation,
Uh-huh.
it's not a setup question, but it's just one that we need to address. So, we have with even in our own culture, a class and a caste system,
Mm-hmm.
right? Would you think that the pageant is directed to education or those of a higher learning or affluent background? Like, are you scouting for? Okay, okay,
Not affluent or a higher background or middle class or anything. We have had
income. Mhm.
Yes, no, we have had a Miss Black Sacramento who had been homeless, who was living under a bridge. So we do everything in our power to make sure that you've got the wardrobe you need to compete, that you receive the training that you need to compete. We've had a young lady, we've had young ladies come out of foster care.
Wow,
And
that's
I can
that's
never,
powerful.
yeah, yeah, we embrace them all. Young ladies that maybe they were in a tenuous living situation. Maybe they're sofa surfing, but we're not going to say you can't do this. We're not elitist at all. Absolutely, you can. And whatever you need, we're going to make sure that you get it, whether it's shoes, hair, nails, whatever you need.
That's amazing. That's good to know. I know that there are always certain rules and protocols and standards anytime that you're trying to have a successful program.
Hmm.
But as a mentor, talk about one of your biggest challenges mentoring various personalities of young women.
Oh, we do have to meet the young ladies where they are. What works for what a technique or being able to reach that young lady. Some young ladies are dragged in kicking and screaming. Their mother wanted them to do it, their auntie wanted them to do it, their boyfriend wanted them to do it, and they're a little reluctant. They're not going to be eager participants when we ask them to, okay, we need you to learn the quarter turns. We need you to, show up on time because we're having this special event. And, they're the one that's not going to call or not show up. But you kind of meet them where they are. And we've got a lot of committee members, and everybody's got their unique way of dealing with reluctant pageant contestants. So if I can't reach them, there's somebody else. It might be Miss Brenda that can reach them, Miss Linda that can reach them. Um, yeah,
That's great. That's great. So you guys are a pack, a team.
absolutely a pack, a girl gang. We're a girl gang
A girl
out
gang. I
here in the
love it.
streets. We're
A
trying to turn these young
aristocrat.
lives around. Yes.
Girl power. I love it. I love articulate. When my favorite speaker is Donna Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And I often watch her just so that I can practice how to speak clearly and eloquently. And also, your mother. I was telling your sister Janine, Mrs. Clater can cuss you out so articulately that you would have to have a personal dictionary, okay, to find out. You like you would say, I think you just says, I don't know if that's good. What you just said to me. Hold on, let me look up some of these words. But Gina,
Yes.
um, a young woman is most impressionable during the ages of 13 through 19, as you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as she is navigating through life in her attempt to find her identity. How much emphasis would you place on her environment?
50, 60%. Um, young ladies, people go to school, kids go to school, and they're exposed to, no matter how cloistered you attempt to keep them, to shield them from the nasties and the uglies in the world, they're not in your sight 24/7. So you've got to really build a strong force field around your child. You've got to entrust them with people that you trust. We open up our rehearsals a couple of times during the 6 to 8 weeks of rehearsal for the parents to come in. We want you to see what we're doing here. We're not hollering at your kids. We're not threatening them. It's all done with love. We want the best for each and every young lady that comes through our system. We want the best for them. We want the best for them. So you've just got to do what you can to build that foundation at home with around your child, um, and hope that they will not be swayed by the devilment that is out there in the streets.
Yes, there is a spiritual component. I believe, and I do believe that for a very long time, our children have been the focus of the enemy and the
Mhm,
attack of the
mhm,
enemy on our next generation. Um, Generation Z, just what have you ever encountered a language barrier because of culture. I mean, 50 years. I'm sure you've evolved and seen the program evolve in terms of the contestants from where you started to the present. So
Right.
how did that? How did you prepare for that? How do you
Fortunately,
prepare for the Gen Zs and the
right.
millennials? How do you prepare for that?
Fortunately, I have children that kind of keep me up to date on what the latest language is.
And
But
nieces,
yes, right. And nieces and nephews.
170 of them.
But coming from somebody my age, those phrases coming out of my mouth, it's just hilarious. And I find that it can generate laughter among the contestants. So we're kind of all on the same page. Okay, you know the point I'm trying to make, young ladies. And if I say it in a funny way or use a term that I would have said back in the day, laugh along with me and let's still accomplish this point.
Absolutely. Um, do you have TikTok? Are you on TikTok or any kind of social medias? Okay,
Instagram. I'm on Instagram
Instagram.
and Facebook. Hmm.
Instagram, I don't think as bad as TikTok. TikTok is the number one leading social media platform that our children are on right now. I think it's up to almost, 75%. And it's all over the place. I don't even know how a parent can actually monitor what pops up on your For You site.
Right.
Because as I'm on TikTok, I see. I yesterday actually I saw a contest. It was a baby twerking contest, and I said to myself, and the parents are are videoing with other parents that are agging or that are applauding, supporting, these young baby. I'm sure these kids were like 6 years old, Gina. I mean, popping it like a Atlanta stripper. And I'm going, this is a hub for child sex traffickers. I
Yeah.
mean, this is scary. This the time that we're in. So how would you speak to that? How would you speak to the parents that are the Gen Z, your nieces, who um or your babies that are experiencing this kind of viewership? How do we
You
protect?
know,
What's our defense against it?
right. People have the right to do whatever they want to do. They have the legal right, and as a parent, you can do whatever you want to do. Well, again, within certain parameters. However, there is always a cause and effect. There is always a result of the decision that you've made or not made by allowing that kind of behavior. So you allow that kind of behavior and we'll walk it forward. So you think it's cute when your 6-year-old does it.
Mm-hmm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm.
already know society hypersexualizes our African American girls and boys. We
Right,
already know that. Now you
right.
send this child twerking and dressed in clothes that with again, we should be able to dress the way that we want to and dress our children the way that we want to. But with this knowledge that society has hypersexualized our children,
Mm-hmm.
is that really what you want to do? So what is she doing then at 11 or 12? As her body starts to develop, and yet her mind still thinks, oh, I'm still a kid, but she's being preyed on or potentially groomed by an adult, male or female, because she doesn't yet have the whole picture. She doesn't have the whole picture how she's
That is
portraying
so
herself.
powerful. She doesn't have the whole picture. And I was actually trying to convey that in a conversation I had about a month ago regarding the age of how a young woman is developing. I know when I was 19 or 20, even though legally the law says that I'm an adult or
Mhm.
of age, even though I had breasts and hips and a butt, right? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was
Exactly.
doing with it. You
Exactly.
know, I didn't know, uh, except for what I saw, what my environment consisted of. And at
Mhm.
that time, I guess when we were growing up, our environment was out of the house because what was
Mhm.
in the
Right.
house was the spirit on the right.
Mhm.
But the environment that we walked out to was the spirit on the left. So that
Mhm.
war with morality and ethics and boundaries was always at war with what
Mhm.
our parents instilled. You know,
Right.
but sometimes if you have these young ladies, right? Like I remember dating a woman and who still lived with her daughter. She was about 34 years old, still lived with her mom, and they went out together to the club, dressed like each other, hair like each other, you know, and you just didn't party with your mom. You know, if it was your
You didn't.
birthday,
You.
something like that, right? But
Yeah.
now you see a trend of, mama, aunts, and grandmas at the club, right? So, and everybody smoking weed, nothing,
Oh my
cannabis.
gosh.
If you have glaucoma or a back problem,
Right.
your cannabis could be medicinal. However, but how would you speak? What is the defense against that? Like some of the millennials feel that because they are an adult, that they stand on the position to the elders is, I have a right to speak my opinion, right? And so how do you try to convey to them that, yes, that's great, that you have an opinion, that's great, I want to hear it, but what level of respect would you say that has to still be maintained for the elders
And
that's
I,
missing in
yeah, I
in
think
this generation?
that's not, they're missing that component, that you still need to be respectful and you need to have a level of self-respect. I ride public transportation and I tell my pageant girls, I don't want you to be the one that's screaming and cursing on the bus, okay, that, and or is having a loud conversation on the phone full of expletives, full of f words, and this so and so did and that did. That's not having any self-respect. And again, you want to stand on the fact that I'm grown, I can do whatever I want to do, but it will 100% affect how people are going to react to you. So you don't know who's on the bus with you. You don't know what the driver. I've been on the bus where a group of kids were acting like that and the driver threw them off. It's not the end of the world, but if that's the way that you're going to conduct yourself, people are going to see that. They're going to perceive that about you, and they're going to react to you accordingly.
So you believe that
We don't live in
it,
a vacuum.
right, right. um, I think if I was to speak to the young people, if there's any young people listening today that are millennials, I would just say to you all, the game hasn't changed, but the
Right.
players in the game have changed.
Mhm.
Y'all are not doing nothing that we haven't already done.
Exactly.
Just the way that you say it, just the way that you dress to do it has changed, right? But the game hasn't changed, and
Mhm.
so that measure of respect has to almost be demanded. It's almost like you go into these spaces, and I want to say, you don't see, do you see this gray hair? Do you see it? You know what I'm saying? Do you know that the elder has walked into the room, and so that conversation has to shift a little bit, right?
Right.
Just
Right.
just a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but I wanted to ask you one final question until we play a real fun game called Rapid Fire, right?
Sure.
Yeah, as a mother of free, a shout out to Jamaica Claytor,
Jamaica Thomas.
Jamaica Thomas, okay,
Hmm.
Jamaica Thomas, and what was the name of?
Andrea and J
No,
Rock.
no, no.
Oh,
Andre,
the
what was the
store.
name of her?
Black Girls Greenhouse in Oakland,
Black Girls Greenhouse in Oakland. She
in West
is a
Oakland.
product of greatness, right? And so her and her girlfriend got together and they have a greenhouse of sorts,
Greenhouse,
plants,
right? With
you
home
know.
goods and T-shirts and books and candles and um, there's cool music playing and a
Yeah.
coffee bar, and you just go and it's a safe space for Black people to go. It's open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in West Oakland, 17th and Center, and it's just a place to go and chill. Plus, they're having a book signing coming up. They've had concerts there. They've had workshops there. Yeah, it's a vibe. It's a
Well,
vibe.
shoot, why don't you shout out the address?
1700 Center in West
1700
Oakland.
Center. If you're ever in Oakland, check my
Yeah,
girl out, my
yeah,
niece, Sipu.
yep.
The what was it called?
Black Girls Greenhouse.
Black Girls Greenhouse. Shout out to Jody,
Andrea.
aka
Andrea.
Drea. All right. The hairstylist
Uh,
phenomena.
she did my pink hair.
Yes, and she whips it up. I mean, she, her ingenuity and creativity is off the hook. Shout out to the J Rock, the
J.
artist.
The artist.
And you just have three phenomenal children, and
Thank
that's
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
You got a plethora of nieces and nephews that are doing amazing, Gina.
Amazing. Uh-huh.
What emphasis would you place on social media's effect on their identity and culture?
Whew. They you know, for my kids, they have to use social media as part of their business plan. They have to. And the bigger their footprint is on social media, the more they benefit. And I would say well, I guess the same thing for my nieces and nephews. Okay. I've got one nephew that's in theology college,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that he's going to be using social media to his benefit. Um, yeah, so in some instances, it's absolutely essential. It can be a very good networking tool, and it would be essential.
So
Don't spend
again,
too much time on TikTok, however.
right, right. So again, um, I did a podcast on influence, indoctrination, excuse me, and idolatry, and how those all tie together, right? And
Hmm.
it's imperative. It's not bad that we have influencers in our influencers in our life. We just have to find the type of influence that's going to create the value, that's going to connect us to our purpose,
Hmm.
so that we can walk grandly on this terra firma. But now, Gina, thank you so much
My
for
pleasure, Cheryl. Thank
all of
you.
your
Thank you for including me.
efforts in creating value in young people's lives over the years. That's amazing. I mean, I want to take an etiquette class again because I think I have forgotten. Just in case. Anyway, this is called Rapid Fire. This is something
Okay,
kind of
all
fun
right,
I
let's
do at
go.
the end of all of the podcast interviews, and it's a versus. So here we go. You
Okay.
ready, Gina?
Uh-huh.
Vegan or meat?
A vegan.
All right.
Mhm.
Gospel or smooth jazz?
Gospel. I can't stand smooth jazz.
Whisper. Oh boy, look, Janine is over there cracking up right now. Shout out to my Pookie Bear, Janine Claytor. To all the Claytors out there, one love. Whispers or OJs?
Ooh, that's a hard one. OJ's. I'm gonna say OJ's. I'm gonna
OJs,
say
okay,
OJ's.
okay. Um, Driving or regional transit?
Ooh, regional transit. I do not like driving, and I've said it before. I'm not a good driver, so
Right. So you spent a
yeah,
lot of time in DC. Did you do a lot of cabs, busing? I thought
yeah,
that whole experience was probably
yeah.
popping.
And they
Yeah,
have a
okay.
marvelous public transportation. You know, there are not like light rail, but it's like their subway, their metro system is very efficient, very expansive. It's not like Sacramento's light rail. I know when I first saw that, I laughed at it.
Don't make
It's-
fun of us. Don't make fun of us, Gene. Don't make fun of us. So you would liken it to like New York? Is that like
yes,
a? Oh,
yes,
that's dope.
yeah,
That's dope. All
yeah.
right, all right. Cake or cobbler?
Ooh, cake.
Okay.
Cake.
Beards or no beards on a man?
Ooh, depends. Depends.
Well, you lit up, girl, like a little Christmas. Look
Yeah,
at
either
so
one.
wait, look. So shout out to CW Barber Lounge, one of the best professional grooming barbershops in
Absolutely,
Sacramento.
one of the best. Uh-huh.
Uh, that's that's my thing. I absolutely love to groom men's beards. I think
Uh-huh.
it is something that sets their masculinity apart. It sets
Mhm.
them in a place that's untouchable, right? And please, here is a PSA to all the brothers out there with beards. Please stop putting dye on your gray. Let it come out naturally. It looks phenomenal.
Yeah,
Okay. We don't want you looking like a little Ken doll. All
right.
right. Okay, let's go. Bald head or hair?
Ooh. I can rock a brother with a bald head, but
Okay.
if he's got some nice silver going on,
Okay.
that's hella sexy.
Okay. Shout out to the Cougars. Shout out to the silver heads out there. Shout out to silver heads. All right. Stage plays or movies?
Stage plays.
Could you tell us a stage play that you were in?
Oh my gosh. Maybe 5 years ago, I was in an all black production of Macbeth. And
Wow.
100 years ago, I was in West Side Story and Flower Drum Song. There might even have been some other ones in between there, but yeah.
Okay, I see you. You got skills, girl. Potato salad or mac and cheese?
Mac and cheese
All day long.
all day long.
Okay,
No,
this
no,
one.
nothing against potato salad, but mac and cheese.
Okay, this one's gonna start a fight. Julie, if you listening all the way in Southern California, Julie or Janine?
How are you going to
you
ask me
know,
to choose between my sisters?
listen, you know who asked me to, so you know who asked me to ask you that one, right?
Janine.
I want to thank my guest tonight for blessing us in this space with her
It's been a lot of fun.
wisdom, with her life testimony, who, has been on the ground and in the trenches, bringing value to our young Black women. And again, I didn't want to laminate and be disingenuous and just focus on the bad of what's happening to our young women, but I wanted to highlight people in Sacramento that are doing some phenomenal things that you may have never known. Gina, if you had to say something to these young Black women, this is your opportunity.
Uh, Anybody that has listened to the show this evening and you're interested in competing in Miss Black Sacramento or Miss Black Teen Sacramento, please go to missblacksacramento.org, fill out an application. We will be gearing up probably over the summer for the next pageant, the 54th year. And I want to say we may be the only Black pageant that has been in operation consistently each and every year for 53 years.
That's awesome.
And I
That's
want to
amazing.
Angel Stewart, who is the granddaughter of Velma Stokely, who is the executive director, who lives in New York, but she still is the executive director of the pageant.
As a matter of fact, shout out to Miss Angel Stewart from New York. What's up, sis? Janine is cracking up. Angel Stewart said Gina didn't answer that last question. She said, "Bravo, Gina." Dolce Nola, thank you for joining us on YouTube. What's up to my brother Jay Robinson? What's up, James? Um, Once again, Gina Clater, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Queen, for
Thank you.
blessing us. Again, you have been listening to No Blankets Podcast. Do me a favor, go to YouTube, hit that subscribe and that bell so you can be notified of our next live stream. Gina Clater, once again, thank you so much for blessing the stage. And remember, when you
I'm
walk
out.
into the space, be the amazing in the room. And I'm out.
All right.